So, welcome, Jean-Claude. It's I'm going to introduce you to people and ask you a few things about the intensive that you're facilitating and that I'm assisting you in. That's happening in February. That's on dreaming. So, you're one of the co-founders of the original Processwork schools in Zurich and in Portland and here in the UK. And you're also a co-founder of the International Association of Process Workers, IAPOC, and also of C4, Community Force for Change, which works, and I'm going to read this because I love the wording of this. It organizes multicultural forums, facilitated trainings, post-war reconstruction and recovery projects. And you also work in lots of different applications. You work with artists and in creative processes, around mental health and around coma. Many, many different applications of process work over a lot of years. And the root of all of those, I think, is in the dreaming. So that's what I'm going to ask you about today.
Thank you.
Okay.
And thanks for the introduction.
Okay.
Hearing it from somebody else sounds like, oh my God, it's true, but is it me?
Yes, well, you and I were talking a little bit about that before. So, so you said when we were talking, and in the flyer that we've done for the intensive, you said that understanding dreams became central for you when you lived in Zurich many years ago and you felt blocked at a certain point in your life. And dreams provided a pathway for you to move forward in a way that you hadn't had any experience of until that point. I haven't phrased it as well as you did. Would you say more about that?
Well, thank you. And yes, I was at the time, had finished a Jungian analysis for about 6-7 years. And what that brought me to Switzerland from London, though I am Swiss. I was working in London when I discovered a book on psychology that led me to look for a psychologist around Europe that I would feel okay with. And the story is too long, but having finished my Jungian analysis, I was looking for understanding more of dreams and the relationship of the body to the body. And I felt I didn't know why I was looking for that. I was just not quite happy.
And you encountered, sorry to interrupt you, and you at that point encountered Arnold Mindell, who was the founder.
The story I encountered was I was talking to my girlfriend at the time, and she turned around and said to me, "There's this funny guy at the Jung Institute that is giving a lecture, and he's talking about things like that, and I'm sure you'll like it. You are somebody who likes things like this," which also defined my girlfriend, but nevertheless, I said, okay. I went and I arrived to a lecture hall where Arnold Mindell was giving his first, his first lecture on it was called the Don Juan series. On the Don Juan series.
The Don Juan series, like Don Juan in Castaneda?
In Castaneda, yes.
Wow.
I was making connections in this session between dreams and body symptoms. And you have to remember I had been in analysis with a Jungian analyst who was quite himself a guy who was not exactly the average. He was about 6'7". He had been European master in rowing, and he was special, let's say it like that. And I came into the room, and I was 15 minutes into the room, and Arnie and I got convinced. No, I want to get to know this this analyst, because he told a story that was interesting. He said he had a client who came to him sent by a medical doctor who said, well, if it doesn't hurt, if it doesn't help, it won't hurt. Okay, that was the theory at the time from the psychiatrists or the doctors. You send somebody to a psychologist or a psychotherapist, it won't hurt, but it might not help. And what he came with, he had a symptom in his hip that when he was running marathons, after 10 minutes, his hip would stiffen. And he couldn't do anything about it. And they had examined him medically, and he had nothing. He was a young man in his around 22, 23. And he had nothing, 20, yeah. And so, and this blew me, Arnie said, let's go run. Now, we're talking 1975 or 76, and we're talking about a Jungian analyst saying, let's leave the chair and run.
Yes.
That was, maybe it was normal for some people, it wasn't for me. I went like, whoa. And I got completely curious, and then I listened to the rest of the story, and what happened was simply that after 5 minutes, the stiffness came in, and Arnie started to work with him right there in the street, asking him to stiffen up, which is an amplification method, and then to
become more stiff, not less.
To become more stiff, and then to make an image, and what came out was that didn't help anything, so he told him, why don't you move your hips in a different way? And the reaction was immediate, that would be seen as feminine.
So if he went with the stiffness and went with a movement from that, he was against that because that would be feminine.
He was against that. The stiffness was more the attitude in him that was against the moving and the swerving with his butt.
Oh, I see.
And so today we would say, okay, sexism, homophobia, all those things are in the air.
Yes.
That would be the first thing that you look at. And that was pretty, that has become obvious in process work in the last 20 years. But at the time, Mindell did another thing. He asked him what did he have against being feminine? And well, he wanted to be a guy. He wanted to be normal. He wanted to be accepted by everybody. And what was happening was that he was afraid of showing that he was sensitive and that he had lots of feelings. And it wasn't about being gay, it was just about having lots of feelings. A man in 75, even in Zurich, feelings were okay, but you weren't exactly celebrated in the newspapers because they were courageous enough to do that, but it wasn't everybody's cup of tea. I remember at the time it was quite a thing when you would see a man carrying his baby on front. And so that was very impressive to me, and the next day I phoned Mindell. And I said, I want to work with you. And I had decided that I would give myself time to find out what I wanted to do, because this was the privilege of the time in the 70s. You could do that because you could find jobs in Switzerland to survive. And I decided to give myself time by deciding not to decide anything in which direction I would go. And 2 years later, I was still deciding nothing. So I said, it's about time I decide something and pull myself together. I'm okay to be hanging up, but not the rest of my life. And so I decided to work on this with Mindell. And I told him one dream, and I want to say that in 20 minutes, and I'm not going to say the dream actually, a dream and a symptom, and in 20 minutes I had an answer. I had promised myself after my Jungian analysis that the last thing I would ever study would be psychology. And it's the funny thing that what the dream simply said was to abandon all my ideas and ideals and concepts about life, bury them, forget them, and study psychology, which was relieving. And it was fun to do. It was like, wow, it was incredible. It was freeing, and that also then brought me, the other one, and this brought me to my attention that I was having done a Jungian analysis for 7 years with somebody who was very well recognized and accepted. I hadn't gotten this kind of specific awareness as I found here. And that drew my attention, interested me, because the relief I felt and the change I felt in my life from this work was immense for me. It was transforming for my life. Here, from being blocked, I had suddenly a pathway I could follow. That was a gift, whether it is by Arnold Mindell or by the dream, or by God. It's not the relevant thing. It was a gift that I felt if there was more to it, the world should know more about it.
If there was more to it?
If there was more to this gift, if, in other words, Mindell could show what he was doing, it was worth showing it. Mm-hmm. Other people could profit from this. Mm-hmm. And it's still something I like to do. I'm still into sharing my skills. Mm-hmm.
And because sharing all the different aspects and applications of that way of working.
Yes. I mean, at the time, the applications were limited. Mm-hmm. In 35 years back. At the time, the formulation of what came later was not yet done. There was not the earliest thing that was talked about was maybe the idea of process versus states. That we in the language people used to speak about states. You're in that state, or you have that state, or you're suffering from that state, and the idea was coming up that it was interesting to look at the state as an unfolding of information in a process of signals and information that you could perceive and work with.
So a state as a moment in something dynamic.
And it's the word state invites a static status quo, whereas the word process makes you interested in where it's going.
Yes, and what's
the idea.
Yes, what's unfolding out of it.